2023 World Champions are People's Force.
The big dream of all bandsmen really is to win the World Pipe Band Championships. And it's always been the same for the last 100 years or whatever. And it's a momentous event for everybody, especially those who win. It's also quite a disappointment for those who get second, third, whatever. It's a huge disappointment because I've hit the crossbar. I've done it myself twice in the 60s. Never won it. But hey-ho, that's where it goes. But this year, 2023, People's Force Boghall Bathgate Caledonia Pipe Band won the World Pipe Band Championship at Glasgow Green during August. And it was a wonderful occasion. All the pundits predicted it, except the band president. And I had a wee pulled his leg at the end of the last interview. But it's nice to wee bit of fun, but it's all the better for having achieved what you've been setting out to do for a long time. So we're going to discuss that, and I'm moving quickly on to Ross Harvey, the pipe major. Ross, quite an achievement. How many times have you tried to win it as a bandsman before?
Well, my first season was 2000.
Yeah.
So I've had enough goes at it, you know.
Aye.
And I've been pipe major since 16. Took over from Ross then, so I suppose that would be my sixth attempt in the driving seat, so to speak, and then a bunch of times in the ranks, you know.
Aye, so describe how you felt on the day.
Well, when I've gone over this story a lot, but I think, you know, the year before, in 22, we were fifth, and that was the best result I'd had as pipe major. So I think as you get nearer the prize giving, you start actually having little negotiations with yourself internally, where you think, right, what would I be happy with? And we played really well 4 times, so I knew we would be in the mix, but I was kind of the stance that if we'd got in the top 3, I would have been delighted. But top 4, I could have taken because that would have bettered our previous result, and I was certainly not expecting to win it. I was blown away, you know.
How about yourself, Callum? Callum Watson, the pipe sergeant. How was your feelings on the day?
Similar to Ross. I mean, I wasn't expecting to win it in the slightest. I think Ross and I and Kerr, we'd spoken about a fair bit. You know, I mean, just to better the 2022 result would be great. You know, the band had been going well, but I suppose deep down we maybe knew we were in a shot at it. But it's one of these things you don't want to think about too much, you know. Yeah, there's only so much you can do as a bandsman or a band, you know. It sits with the judges, and I mean all the other bands certainly in the top 6 are unbelievable this season. I mean, I was just shocked when we won it, to be honest.
Callum, did you in the band core, the body of the band, during any of the 2 days, the Friday and Saturday, did you have any worries about bagpipes or tunes or stuff going wrong? Was there anything threatened it from time to time?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's always a worry when you play four times. I mean, I think it's very hard to know how long to play each time. But
no particular instance, so the drones flying off or anything like
no,
that.
I mean, I think
it brought people because of bad chanters or anything like that.
No, I mean, we played the pipe corps. Everyone played all four runs. We didn't have to drop anyone. The pipes have been very well behaved all season. I think it's certainly since I've been in the band, setting the pipe corps up this season it's certainly felt the easiest. I'm sure Ross would probably agree.
Yeah. Who does the drones, say, Callum?
It's the ex-pipe sergeant Donald MacLeod, who was a pipe sergeant before Ross, and he was helped by Adam Stevenson, who played in the band for a while.
Kerr, leading drummer, very, very important man. If you don't get your guys at the back end playing a great ensemble effect with the pipes, then all is lost. How did you feel about how things were going during the World Pipe Band Championship on Friday and Saturday? Did you have any wee things and wee worries or anything like that? Or what's going on?
As a leading drummer, you've always got an ensemble hat on. You're always thinking about how can you aid the pipe corps here? How can you bring the two goers together? And actually, it felt really easy. All four runs, from the MSRs to the medleys, it was really easy. And we were well rehearsed. We were really confident. There was a belief inside the band that we could go and at least perform. You never know with the result how things are going to pan out, but the thing you can control is performance, and we were absolutely delighted with that.
Did you put that down to good preparation over the year?
I think so, yeah. From a drumming point of view, we've got quite a structure, a practice structure in place, which is quite well thought out. The communication I've got with the likes of Ross and Callum, just in terms of talking about how do we want to phrase this tune, how do we want this to come over. We've worked on that throughout the season quite a lot, and it managed to come to fruition at the whole thing.
Okay, Ross, as pipe major, you get in conjunction with the rest of the band to pick the tunes and everything else and settle the whole thing in. But you've got a background that includes some knowledge of drumming, I understand.
That's right. Well, I play kit, and that's what I studied at uni. So I do. It's interesting, Kerr's talking about wearing the ensemble hat there as leading drummer, because to be honest, all I think about when it comes to the tempos and the breaks and whatever is trying to think like a drummer. And, you know, my approach would very much be trying to get nearly inside Kerr's kind of musical head on the day, just try and react with him so that we're completely on the same page. And then hopefully that has a good ensemble effect across the whole band, you know.
So you're a piper, but you're also a drummer. So you get the dual skills, if you like. How about yourself, Kerr? Have you any knowledge of piping there? Did you never play pipes at one point?
No, I play pipes as well. I thought that.
I didn't want to be just say too much in your face about that. Tell us about that.
Well, my mum was actually a piper, so she played in the band at the start, and then she sort of taught me. Then when I was at school, I did my music exams on pipes, so my National 5 and higher exams. So that was all piping, and I just enjoy it. So when Ross and Callum were talking about tunes, I'll always try and learn them first on the pipes, understand all the embellishments, what's the tune trying to convey here.
Yeah.
That into the drum score, and it seems to work pretty well.
Callum, in there in the middle of this, how do you feel the music lends itself to the drumming? Are you very strictly uh, uh, playing the music on the crotches, the quavers on the page? Is there any room for, just stretching a wee note, overcutting a note here and there, just to give the tunes a bit of lift, rather than a round style of playing? How do we go over that?
We probably don't play everything exactly as it's written on the page. I don't think it's anything measured, though. I think it's the band. But I think because over the last, well, probably since the band's inception, the change of leadership has always come from within and been natural. So I mean, it's never something we actively think about. I don't think it's something that normally just clicks. But yeah, we do talk about pulling out certain beats. Certainly, there was a bit in one of the marches, the Week of the Worlds, that Ross Kerr and I spoke about, that the pipers were just extending a bit more than the drummers. But yeah, we don't sit and deliberately measure it out or overthink it. I think it all just comes together.
Ross, it's very, very difficult for your strict tempo, strict this, that, the next thing, just to bring out the music. And it's the easiest thing to play everything as round as possible, because that lends itself to the percussion. But at the end of the day, you've still got to play music. And that, I think in this day and age, 2023, the musical performances are coming to the fore in the prize list. Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, I think it would be fair to say that the sound of the bands this year has probably been closer in terms of intonation accuracy than it has been probably ever, certainly in my competing career. So the music is being talked about more and more, which is a fantastic place to be as an entity, and certainly going back to the points that Callum's making, we don't try and force it where it's maybe out with our nature. We just try and let it happen. But the thing is, although you don't necessarily talk about all the little specifics musically, you inherently you feel that, and when the band's going well and the drummers are playing to the pipes very well, you just know when it's right, and that's when you really find that extra gear.
I think myself that right away back at the beginning, it's crucial that you pick the good tunes that allow you to bring out the music, as well as have a wonderful percussion at the back, so there's room to move and express. But if you pick the wrong tunes that are too close and too tight, then you're almost forced to play them round, and the music drops out of it because you're all trying to play together. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, and I think tempo is really the key to that. If you try and force it a bit too much, and we're all guilty of that from time to time, especially you're trying to drive things and be as competitive as possible, you can just sometimes lose that musical edge. Whereas if you just let it come back a touch, which is hard, obviously, when adrenaline's flowing, you can do a lot more musically with it. So that's been a real, really high up on our list of thoughts, certainly going into the Worlds weekend.
Grant, how would you were looking on, obviously, at the performances? How did you feel about the performances as you went through the Friday and the Saturday? And I'm quite sure it gives you a good bit of heart for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole week leading up to the Friday and Saturday was something that'll I think will live with all of us forever. The preparation was just par excellence. The manner in which rehearsals were being finessed, the details that were being sought, we went into the weekend with a high degree of confidence, and as all the guys we say here, there's no guarantee you'll get that. It's what we all know is the wee pointy trophy at the end of the day, and it's been a bit of a holy grail for many of us, myself included. So I think we just felt over the course of the weekend that we knew with the late draw we had on the Friday, it was really important to put in two stonking performances, and I think we managed to do that. And then we felt on the Friday with an earlier draw, but the weather was a bit of a lottery, so we really kept our focus, and it was just a joy to play in the circle with everyone. You know, I think back to the guys that I've had the honour of playing with in the band over the years, not least my brothers, but so many people, and that sense of community that everybody was really rooting for us in terms of who has an interest in our band, and it was a great relief and a great sense of joy for everyone. Locally and historically in the band. Even yet, I mean, I was playing at something on Friday just locally, and the amount of people that came up to me and said, "Listen, that was just phenomenal. What happened with you guys and what have you?" So it's been really humbling. But I think the day itself, the weekend, it couldn't have went much better. I've been really, in awe of these three guys here because they're not exactly they're not old. And I've watched them all grow, particularly Kerr this year, and it's been an absolute joy to just play in the circle beside them and see that result materialise the way it did. It was just, I couldn't have wished for anything more. It's been a combination of a dream come true for me personally. I know for loads of people in the band. So, as the guy said, you have no idea that you'll get them. And I've had more than four false stones than most, like yourself, Alan. But for the name to be read out first, it was. I'll never forget it. It was great.
It's a wonderful feeling, and it's a terrific achievement, and well done, guys, on that. And I heard the whole of the first grade, heard every performance, watched it on the internet, and so I watched it, the four competitions over the 2 days. And I had Boghall first in every event, and I wasn't particularly biased. I'm a police guy, so it's just one of these things. Incidentally, I thought the Scottish Police, what the hell they call them now, Scottish Police Federation Band, I had them mid-table. I found that they played very well. And leading on from that, right down to the 14th, somebody's got to get last. But the last band did play well. The three New Zealand bands played well. Everybody played well. There was not a bad band over the four competitions. So that makes your win all the more resounding because FM played terrific, and as did Inverary, SFU. There wasn't a bad performance, so it wasn't as if you got everybody in a bad day and you sneaked through the field. You didn't. You came right to the top of a very, very competitive couple of days at the World Pipe Band Championships. And you're to be congratulated with that. And you should be confident in the future because I don't think these bands can play any better than what they did, and yet you still came in top. How about how's your thinking about next year? Any changes of tunes or what's happening? What do you think will happen in the future?
I'll answer it from a committee point of view. I think we need to invest in our youth policy, and there's quite a bit of debate and discussion to be had about that. We need to really deliver on that. We've had a few sort of lean years in that, and that's basically post-COVID. But there's a debate to be had about, because our band succeeds because of our youth policy. So we're all acutely aware of that. So in terms of the committee and the leadership, in that respect, we'll be having some fairly significant and strategic discussions as to how we can deliver on that. And we talked about that briefly in the interview I did with my brothers. In terms of the music, again, I'm a mere piper. I will humbly and cheerfully submit to Ross, Kerr and Callum in that respect, because there may well be some demands on the band next year with various events, but I would put that over to them, Alan.
And Ross Harvey, Pipe Major, how you looking forward to next year?
Very much so. I mean, obviously this is completely unknown territory for us in terms of going into another season as the world champions. But to answer your question, musically, from that approach, we're actually in a bit of a dilemma now because you've ultimately got 4 competition sets that are all doing quite well. So I suppose we'll try and tidy up any loose ends that maybe feel a little bit overplayed. You know, there'll naturally be some bits that feel a bit tired, but we could effectively do nothing, you know, and just try and work on tightening up little bits and bobs where we think we could find little gains. But I suspect we will do small changes, not necessarily wholesale changes.
There's the danger of going completely overboard and playing something like a symphony of tunes and just throwing the recipe out the window and just trying something too adventurous. On the other hand, you could become boring for next year because everybody's heard you and they want to hear something fresh. So it's trying to steer the middle road in between. If you get any thoughts on that, Callum, yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, it's always fun to, you know, to learn new tunes over the winter, but obviously, as Ross says, it's. I think if we were to put a new medley out, it would need to be quite a good one to top the 2 medleys we put out this year. I think we all felt in the band it's probably the first time we've had 2 solid medleys. You know, you don't always know if a medley's going to work until you put it all together and been out in the field with it, and then you listen back and go, that's not quite how I heard it in my head in last October, you know.
Yeah. How about yourself, Kerr? What thoughts have you got about progressing through to next season?
Yeah, I think similar to the guys, it's just about getting the balance right. You don't want to go one way or the other. It's about making sure you stick to the foundations which we've got because everything's really solid and has worked. But you don't want to be too boring and give people more of the same all the time. So I'm sure we'll go through everything in detail, and make the right decisions where we need to do it. But yeah, it's just about getting the balance right, which I'm sure we do. We've got a great working relationship with all the leadership group, and also there's great guys in the band always chipping in ideas here and there. So I'm sure we're all looking forward to the future and next season. It's an exciting position to be in.
And that's a wonderful sort of tie-up. Grant, anything else?
Again, at the risk of stealing the other guys' thunder, I've really just been bowled over by the reception we've had since we won. Some of the messages, particularly from ex-members and just generally from the pipe band community. I think I kind of feel that a lot of the energy we're getting from it is a bit like how we felt when St Lawrence O'Toole won the Worlds in 2010, because I think they looked at those guys from Dublin and with all the challenges they had, not least logistics. And when they won it, I know personally, I thought, well, if the guys can do it, we can. And I genuinely feel some of the bands, even in Grade 2 and Grade 1, I'll look at our win and go, well, these guys have been at it for the long haul and they've ultimately achieved that accolade. What's to stop us? That's what I'll take out of it, was just the real goodwill and the encouragement I thought loads of other bandsmen and women took out of that entire weekend.
And there you have it from Pipers Persuasion, folks. A lovely discussion, way forward, very positive. So if you're in your own band, maybe you can borrow some of the ideas, especially how positive you can be, looking to the future, working hard, as these guys have done, and get your results. So it's hard work, and it's good music, and it's good night from Pipers Persuasion. And many thanks to President Grant Walker, Pipe Major Ross Harvey, Kerr McQuillan, the leading drummer, and the Pipe Sergeant Callum Watson. All the best to the whole lot of you. Thank you very much.
Pleasure, Alan. Thanks again.
Thanks, Alan.
All the best.